I think we can almost start. May I ask the moderators for the first three working groups to join me? Joseph? Okay. Joseph, can you join me at... yes, also to present. Yeah, if you need it, yeah. Okay. 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 Maria is also here. Maria? Yeah, also in the room. Okay. No. So, ladies and gentlemen, first I want to congratulate and also applaud you, because I've seen a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of interaction in the tables at the table. So really appreciate it. It's also nice to have this kind of a discussion because you see how many different opinions and viewpoints you have. You have a multidisciplinary approach, and that's exactly what we try to, the message that we try to pass to you. That if you're working together, also from a multidisciplinary perspective, from different member states, you see, you learn, and you can contribute to improve together. So I've asked the first three moderators to come on stage just to give a presentation what they have done, a process, just a few minutes, okay, also for time reasons. And I've understood that people are so enthusiastic that some tables have even more than one use case, came up with 2 or 3 use cases, whatever. That's very good. But I think that that's really one of the challenges that we face also in our day-to-day work. It seems so easy to do that, but to find a common pan-European approach for a use case that several member states and end users say, yes, this is what I want to tackle. It's not that easy. Sounds easy, it's not easy. However, it's fun to do it. But, yeah, yes, of course. And, yes. And just for reference, because we cannot show you the actual mirrors per group, of course you will receive the information afterwards. So we've presented the blank sheet overall, just to go a little bit through it, what you have done, and then I give the floor to Joseph. Yeah, cool.
Okay, from table 1, just give me 1 second because I have to do with it. Okay. Let's say the dream, the ideal situation could be a harmonized early warning and risk assessment system across Europe. There are 2 more light requirements, let's say. No man-made ignition. We exclude here prescribed burning, of course. And 0 probabilities of houses get burned. Along, we are not finished yet, with a shared communication command and control system in general, okay? So give me 1 second because I use a mouse and not the pad. Okay. So as this situation, so we don't have any common or uniform standards for wildfire risk assessment and early warning system in Europe, okay? The only thing that at least it's common is the EFIS system, but the problem is that the EFIS is not, let's say, a part of the member states' framework for early warning, you know, for fire danger assessment and all this. It exists, but it's on a more research and level, you know. You can use it, but it's not an obligation or something for the member states. The other thing is that we do have the majority of ignitions across Europe. This is something state, are either of unidentified cause, actually most of it is of unidentified cause, or they are strongly dependent on humans. Okay, either negligence, arsons, deliberate, we don't care, but it's dependent on humans. Communities are not well educated or trained, if you want, on wildfires and especially on preparedness issues. There are currently no specific regulations exist for fire resilience building, specifically for wildfires, not structural fires itself. Okay, and the other thing that we don't have, and let's say that we would like to have, is that we don't have the exact points of ignition. So moving, let's say, forward. Okay, sorry. A few steps: harmonization. Standardization at any level that you can think of. First harmonization, then standardization, and processes, standard formats of files, of regulations, of anything. We want both educated the population and the professionals. Need of early warning technologies, and of course technologies to help us to assess risk. Decision support system in the whole process from prevention to okay, of course, also to response. Data, we need data, continuous feed to databases, and land use planning and land use management. So, more or less, sorry. The wish situation is zero probability of houses getting burned, minimize the man-made ignitions, of course, always excluding prescribed burning, I have noted this. Harmonized system, early warning system, and risk assessment systems. And a very wishable list, full interoperable shared command and control, communication command and control system. Let me... Nico, sorry. The old generation, I use the...
That's right.
Okay, now in the use cases, okay, for the end users, firefighters, volunteers, civil protection, medical, paramedics, ambulances, law enforcement, especially for the evacuation part, civilians, weather services, critical entities, insurance operators, and of course land managers and land users. Main functions: educate and train both professionals and non-professionals, consultation between various stakeholders, harmonize, detect, define, classify, and monitor the incident, and planning, land management and response plans. Input, funding, we need money, everybody needs money. Available data, we need data, and something also important, consensus on what is the objective, because this is not always the case. Output, it could be seamless data sharing, common data sets, common danger and fire risk maps, in general common maps if we can have this, common processes and common language, minimum common legal and regulatory framework. When, as we have written down, yesterday. Okay, we need ASAP, all the above. Where we should start from the local level, move to the regional, national, and finally the European to the extent possible. Now in the final box, although I think that we have mentioned it always, I have added create, develop economic cost models for all the above. Finally, sorry. In the right table, for the functions, let's say we have identified 4 prioritized functions. First one, harmonization and standard operating procedures. Now with the performance metrics, although it's not exactly a metric yet, define capabilities. We need to define what exactly capabilities we want to harmonize and follow. And we have called it flexibility to support national operating procedures which means adaptability. The next function is prioritize high fire risk areas for land management. We could measure it like something how share of funding that has been given for management, or existing and valid land/forest management plans. Third function, partnerships and agreements. So we need the various, we need to agree that on what we are doing between the various stakeholders. For example, municipalities, and of course, for example, between countries. It could be bilateral, it could be at European level, And the final one is education. It could be measured by, number of people educated or number of professionals educated. We can find something in the end. That's it. Okay? Thank you. Sorry for not being very technology.
No, thank you. Perhaps Joseph, or you and Maria will...
Because I think we are closely aligned.
Okay, that's very good. So perhaps a little bit of overlap, but also for time reasons, because I've been told that we should end at 5 o'clock. I don't know if try to do that we go really in the wish and the use cases. I think that's...
I will be quick. I will be quick because we have a lot of overlaps with George. I think we more or less moved around the same logic. So actually, the ideal situation is to have a pan-European incident command and control system for managing fires. So more or less we align in this regard. We have a different name. As the situations and the problems that we see in the current processes is that countries have the regional or even national management systems. There is a huge issue in the approval of operation between different countries, and there is a lack of facilitation on operation from other countries into a national level. And of course, there are differences in equipment that also need a harmonization part. So the 5 steps that we discussed is the harmonization of operations, rules of engagement, and we also discuss heavily the legal part, which is something that it needs a lot of attention. We need also the transit and the receipt of information and data from different sources like video, images, IoT data into the new, let's say, pan-European platform. The standardization of severe weather codes, the harmonization of communication to citizens, and also, as a 5th step, the evaluation of the effectiveness and the impact of the system using some econometric tools in order to decide on its effect. In the wish situation specifically, we said that we need integration in different levels. So it's on operational level and also on ICT level. The communication to citizens, it's something that it was also highly discussed in the sense that it would be nice to have a communication based on specific groups. To standardize a little bit these mechanisms. And the harmonization also on communication protocols, it's something that also will come as a wishful situation. The ideal world also would mean an alignment between the prevention, response and recovery cycle, and as we discussed, the harmonization of EU early warning systems. Now, I will go to the functions that we discussed. More or less, the end users are the same as George mentioned. So we need we discussed about risk management, risk mapping, distribution of hazards in terms of time and space, damage prediction and vulnerability assessment, hour-to-hour data, integration and coordination of ground and air support, the automatic activation of the early warning system, which can come from the firefighters on ground with a simple geofencing tool through their mobile phones. Operational picture that it will be different depending on the level of command in the organization, and the decision and intervention log. So we have, let's say, a chain of operations and the instructions to citizens. Now, in the input part, we discussed about forest fuel maps, road maps, infrastructure maps, hydrants, electrical maps, and water maps. Also, sensoric data like drones, etc., and IoT and satellite data. The output would be to save money and lives, of course. Thinking about, let's say, the bigger picture, we also pointed out the less carbon footprint and the protection of the nature. Information in order also to organize better the prevention part and also post-event evaluation and needs assessment. And of course, an important output if you have such system would be to maintain the exhaustion of firefighters. I think that on the where part we discussed that this system could not only focus on wildfires but also to structure fires. And in the terms of what should happen and should not happen, the system should not have an impact on the battery of the mobile phone of the firefighters, should not go down in all terms. It should be secure ones. It should work on low bandwidth, supported by EU satellites, and also have secure and reliable communication at all times. And of course, cybersecurity, it was also highlighted as an important aspect. In the performance parameters, we discuss the latency, the speed of information from the field back to the command and control system, the frequency, and how efficient the evaluation took place. And of course, cost efficiency, it's something that it's important to measure as a performance parameter of such a system. I think that's all.
Thank you. So indeed, some overlap, but it's good that we see at least for the two first tables that indeed we see some common use cases pop up. And perhaps there's even overlap with number 3, but Joseph will explain it to us. Yeah. Speed up.
Yeah, of course. Some slight overlap, but we didn't went all in with the European platform. We stayed within one country. And thank you for interesting discussion. I think it was a nice exercise. So I will just, for the sake of time, describe. So what would be the ideal situation? We discussed that it would be really nice to have an integrated situational awareness platform that would include decision support system with automatic prediction. So what is the situation right now? We have all information, but it's up to the personnel to assess the situation, so that's why we would like to have a decision support system. We have now several data streams, but they are not all integrated. Sometimes there is a problem with availability of data due to the GDPR in some member states, I heard. So we don't have access, for example, to real-time position of assets. We don't have some information that we would like to have. For example, fire intensity, etc. What are the 5 steps to reach to our optimal situation? So first, we need to actually have an agreement or approval of current providers so we can access the data if we are not allowed to share them openly. If that is not the situation, then the suppliers should provide their own means of providing you with the data which are not available. Very complicated. And all of this, I think, and we discuss it, would come also to changing the internal regulation of some public buyers, meaning that basically you need to also include in new tenders that all the systems need to use the standard protocols so you have access to data that you can use later on. You also need to have data that you are going to provide to the suppliers so they can train the predictive systems. So either you provide them, and if you don't have, the suppliers need to come with the data. And we had heard some discussion about the data availability today. Very important topic. And overall, to achieve the optimal situation, you would need to also cooperate with other organizations, so like RTOs and universities, again, when it comes to data. What is the wish situation? I already described. Do we have a time to go through the main functions or we don't? So again, thank you very much.
So thank you. May I ask the last moderators to join me here? Annabelle, Filippo. Yes. And as I've already told you, you will receive all the information, I think, next week or the week after, in 2 weeks or something like that. You can stay here immediately. Let me do that. No, it's not so important.
Okay. So just give me a sec. One sec. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, great. So first, a big shout out to table 5. It was really a great table, really active and cooperative. So we have actually 3 potential use cases. I will be very brief and we'll touch base on some points that we discussed because, yeah, we brought many things that are functional and that are related to issues that we all have, but then we also touch base on things that, yeah, are not sometimes closely linked, but really relevant as well. So the first discussion that we had was about having systems and having risk indicators just about vulnerability and risk, meaning that sometimes we are missing some risk indicators to detect fires on time. The ones and the systems and the risks that we have right now are limited and don't really reflect the variability of the different places. So, for example, it's not the same in France, it's not the same in Norway, it's not the same in a housing place, it's not the same when you have a big building. That's one of the points. So the systems don't reflect every situation. Then there is a lack of connectedness in the sense that you have information located in different sources and different systems, and it's difficult to access everything that you need in the time that you actually need it. And the last of it is that, well, the systems that are in place, they are not really interoperable. It's difficult to connect different systems, so that means that different national systems do not work together well. Also, we could even say that in regional level might not happen. So what do we need? The different 5 steps that we went through, well, first we need to have a system that gathers information from different sources. Then we need a system that gathers this data. But this system should also be able to allow you to select what data do you need for each particular situation so that you don't have an information overflow. You have the information that you need. One common theme that we had in the table is that it would be ideal to involve all European countries in this kind of cross-border solutions because, of course, if you do not do that, it is difficult that the solution will be tailored to everybody's needs. So this is kind of a side table discussion, but a very important one. And last but not least, we were mentioning, of course, interoperability and adaptation to existing systems and existing protocols. So what would be the wish situation? What is what we aim to achieve in a perfect world? Well, we would have a system, and here is the keyword that was mentioned in our table and a really good one. We want a system that fosters defendability in the sense that you have several risk indicators. These risk indicators cover different things that are in different sources. So, for example, you would be able to check the vegetation of a house, you would be able to check the evacuation routes, you would be able to check all these kind of aspects, all this kind of information, and tailor to the particular situation. Why? Because, of course, the goal is to stop the fire when it needs to be stopped and help you to give you the tools to prevent these fires in time. So, for example, if you realize that a house has too many vegetation, you would have the information in time to prevent a fire from happening. That's the goal. Then, the second case that we had was about firefighter uniforms. I wasn't aware of this, but apparently in this year we need to have firefighters with uniforms without PFAS. And this is mandatory. However, many European countries, if not all, haven't achieved this as is right now. So what was the goal? Well, the goal, of course, is to have these uniforms without PFAS at European level if possible. What do we do in order to achieve that? Well, first of all, since it seems that it's a common problem that we are not going to be there on time in 2026, join forces to see if we can work together to accelerate this and to find alternative solutions if there are. Then, additionally, make it interactive, of course. All the countries participating, if possible, all European countries, should have a say in the development of the new technology if we do need to develop a new uniform, for example. Additionally, and this is very important, since we are talking about changing uniforms all over Europe, and there are millions of those, the solution should make economic rationale, so working together, economies of scale could play a role. Also considering the different in uniforms in different countries, because of course in our table we were discussing French uniforms compared to Norwegian uniforms, maybe they are not as warm. So there might be changes there, and that also should be taken into account there. And of course, since we are pressed, it would be ideal to first check what the market has to offer. So in one of the first presentations, we were discussing the open market consultation in the active PCP. So maybe a thorough market consultation to see what the market has to offer, and if there is already something there, maybe tailor it. Otherwise, develop something together that tackles the problems from everybody. And the last one, the last case, really, really interesting, is about retardants or using water with soap to take over a fire, to stop a fire. This is interesting because this is new to me, to be honest. I found the discussion super interesting. This can pose first an environmental problem, but then depending on the type of retardant that you're using, it can have an effect on the crops. So for example, we were discussing grapes, that you cannot eat them anymore. They don't taste the same, so we are very worried about wine. But in any case, we have to find a solution that is environmentally friendly and that actually could be European. That would be ideal, because for now we don't have this European solution. And of course, that could be used all over Europe, meaning that the regulations about retardant in Europe are different, so probably we should be checking what is the most strict regulation so that this solution works everywhere. So in case, for example, French firefighters have to go support Spain, this can be used in Spain. This, of course, implies that we are buying together and we are developing together this solution. Comments about this. Of course, final solution wish list, what we want to achieve with this is a retardant that is environmentally safe, that is ecological, and if possible, European, so developed for and by Europeans. The other thing, of course, is that we should be working together to make sure that this retardant works for everyone and it's compliant with everybody's regulation. Ideally, we would check what the market has to offer, just in case there is something already going on in Europe, and then we can decide how to actually procure this solution. And last but not least, of course, what I was mentioning about regulations and interoperability. So we need to ensure that this solution works, not just because of our regulation, but also in the ways that we are delivering, in a way, the retardant. So, for example, we were talking about corrosivity. We need to ensure that this complies with the standards that are acceptable for everyone. And that's all on my side and on Table 5. Thank you again, Table 5, and thank you all so much.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Also from my side, we were at Table 8, and I also have to say that it was a very collective exercise. So, our use case is built around a wildfire in urban areas. I would rather start from the problem, so the situation right now. So the challenges at the moment are that first responders do receive information too late, and this information is difficult to access. There is a lack of knowledge and data about the substances that are generated during the disaster. And moreover, the actual situation on the ground comes very late to the first responders. So the ideal situation would be to have early warning systems on wildfires and more accurate data, having better equipment and standard operational procedures for preventing health issues of first responders, better communication and information sharing with other actors that are involved in the operation, and near real-time information. So starting from the current situation and to reach the ideal one, the steps that have been identified are the existence of capabilities providing near real-time information to be better aware of what's the actual situation on the ground, detection and evaluation capabilities for dangerous substances. So here it's not only about detecting, but also having the capability to analyze this information. And thirdly, the availability of a technological radar to be aware of the up-to-date tools that could be used in this operation. To conclude, the main functions that would be needed for our use case are early warning, detection and evaluation capabilities for dangerous substances, and near real-time information and information sharing. The input that we would introduce in the system is, of course, what is going on during the event, the location and the scale of the event itself, as well as the potential consequences on people, infrastructure, and the environment. And the output that we would ideally get from these inputs is accurate and real-time information for first responders. And our exercise has stopped here for the moment.
Thank you.
Great. Last but not least, group number 6. Many thanks. If you would just raise your hands quickly, so to give an applause to the fun table. Yeah, I mean, we took quite a couple of minutes to discuss possible use cases. So in order to figure out this exercise, what are the, where you actually should really put some brain work in. And I think that's why it was very important that we had the opportunity to go through this. In the end, we decided to exercise this for an early detection, early action support tool. So we had other use cases as well, like just single robotic solutions for fire response and so on. But in the end, we said, let's take those IT solutions. There are so many already out there, but still they are not ending up at the place where they should be, to maybe figure out why this is the case. So just to describe where we are now with these IT solutions and to complement what already has been said. I mean, we have now systems, we use digital systems, GIS-based systems, all the imagery is integrated. I mean, this is state of the art and this is also used, but in reality, we all know how it looks if you look into vehicles of firefighters. I mean, they sit with 1 or 2 laptops and different IT platforms, so we have fragmented systems and that are relying on multiple disconnected data sources, and this I think is one of the major cornerstone that we identified when describing this SE's situation, and this was very important, and we made even a more deep dive into describing this state of the art now. And then the wish situation was more to come to a modular design. So the architecture we have discussed. I will not go into the technical details. But what was then important for us there was to understand how do we get from where we are now to where we would like to be. Yeah? And it's not about the money, it's actually about identifying what are the shortcomings and bottlenecks in this process. And I would just highlight 2 important things that we figured out. One is it requires understanding of interoperability requirements. So it's that the solution is not the solution that is just for one customer. In wildfire response, you have multiple agencies or actors involved, so the solution should be interoperable. It should be maybe for one customer, but it should also have others also included. So we touched also a bit on this in step 3 and 4 with the functional requirements. And then it's about understanding the doctrines. Wildfires are not a single country issue. It's a regional hazard and risk. So it requires regional mindset to develop such a support tool. Yeah, we have Scandinavia is working different in wildfires than in the Mediterranean. So also the way we procure and develop systems, I think a European one-fits-all solution is also not realistic, and that was a very great discussion that we had on that. So when it came down to step 3 on when and where such a solution and use case could be implemented, that it should be in a region, should be brought into a regional context, and especially when we talk about wildfire solutions, IT solutions especially. That's it. With this, I want to conclude just a few cents on how it was for us. Absolutely great experience to exercise that through, and many thanks to the whole group.
Before I pass the word to Giannis, I really would like to thank everyone for the contribution, of course, also to the moderators. It's really appreciated to do this. And, well, I think that we meet each other in the first actual PCP that we're going to do together as member states. Who knows? It's for Giannis to conclude. Yes.
Okay. I think that was a blast. Very interesting ideas for me to take back in the office tomorrow morning. Also ideas for next work programs, who knows. What I think was the main aim of the workshop of today, and I think we achieved it, was to get you more familiar with the concept of PCP. I think you heard it so many times today that at least I hope you know what it stands for. And the main goal is to have more innovations that will serve towards wildfire preparedness. You saw with my colleagues, we tried to really dive into the topic and to help you understand how the mechanism works, to think a bit outside of the box and to have in your mind capabilities and not technological solutions, because that's also important. Usually we have the tendency to speak about topics with a solution already in mind. That we have a tool. When you say, we don't say a phone, we say an iPhone, for example. Or these things can and must change in order to have a more proactive approach in the response towards the crisis and the disasters we are facing. We should focus on capabilities, to identify the gaps, as we said in the morning, and to see more how we can get there. This exercise, I hope it was useful. I would like to open the floor a bit maybe to you as well, if you would like to say something, to my colleagues from DG ECHO in the back maybe first, and then if somebody else has something else to add, that would be nice. As a key takeaway from you, from your side, if you find it useful, and yeah, there's a mic over there, I think. Yep.
Hello. Yeah, thanks a lot from our side too, and I don't want to keep you too long from the bubbly, but one aspect to contextualize on what you talked about pan-European. I've worked in DG ECHO for 5 years, and I think it went very nicely with the tables over there. I don't know, it was pure randomness that you started from pan-European and then went with Christian to regional. Maybe a Brussels bubble joke, but within our field, harmonization, standardization, interoperability are taboos. You cannot say them because that doesn't exist on European level. Your ministers have not decided to do it. We don't have a mandate for it. That is one reason why you're saying that these are gaps over here. But that's not a negative sense, because don't be afraid to start small, like in a regional, supranational, cross-border setting with a few countries only. Because in the end, that can create like Giannis like to call it de facto standardization. That you get a critical mass of countries around it. I mean, the pan-European can be like the end goal, and like it was said, wish list. So I think you can use the term pan-European, but it's very unlikely that you would get it in the first project, because I was interrogating our home colleagues, and for example, the PCP going to crisis communications. It started 2013, you said. So it's over 10 years later that the legislation comes, that the member states agree on it after there was enough critical mass of member states doing it. So I think, like the equipment example, that's France and Spain. I mean, you can start with France and Spain, and then they find it's good, and you multiply it from there. So don't be, I think it's the American saying that think big, start small. Yes. You can correct me correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed, I just can only agree and subscribe to that. Having in mind the history of our PCPs, at least, we had examples of projects started 10 years ago that it was a group of member states started the idea. Then once the technology were mature, now 10 years later, we are preparing legislation from the side of the Commission. So that's the biggest impact of a PCP. identifying the gap and coming for the area of critical communication systems, the first pan-European system that can actually bridge this gap. Final words from my side to thank you all for coming here today, even despite the strike. I think it was a big challenge, but really appreciate that you make it. Big thank to my colleagues as well, to the moderators of the panels, to Stefan and Josef for moderating this excellent workshop in the afternoon, which we have many ideas now to take back home. The CERIS team, Oliver, Mattea, and Stephanie, and all the rest of my colleagues that help, especially from DG ECHO, that they supported me with this. And final word for CMINE for supporting us with the technical support of live streaming and all the online participation as well. Thank you very much, and let's enjoy the drinks now. Thank you. Have a safe trip. Have a safe trip home.